Yeah.
Yeah. So
We're
mic
live.
works. We're live. Wow, this is the first time, Didi, we're live. So
Yeah. And
yeah,
and I
it's
see.
exciting for us. You know, we have all these conversations all the time. So why not do that on a Saturday night live and see what's happening? And I guess there's some people in already, right? See
Yeah.
three
So if
people.
if
Yeah.
you're there and want to say hi, then
Yeah.
I'm very curious who's there.
Absolutely.
Um, but otherwise, we'll just
Yeah, we had some topics, and
yeah,
first thing we want to talk about is your trip to Berlin a couple of weeks ago, where you
yeah,
visited the Bodyworks exhibition, right?
absolutely. No, I seems like an odd comfort, an odd subject to talk about here, but. Yeah, I went to visit my friend in Berlin, and she took me to like Bodyworks.
Yeah,
It's really interesting because you really see the human body and how it's built up, and
yeah, it's an exhibition for people who don't know what it is, where they use actual, well, the remains of people who really lived, and
yeah,
use them to show the body and
yeah.
etc. And it's very interesting, of course, because they talked a
Well,
lot about the fascia, right? Yeah,
yeah, it there was a I got really excited when I got in, and there was a whole corner which was just about fascia and the importance and the research now that's been done
hmm.
around fascia.
Yeah,
And I was like, wow, that's so amazing, because we talk about it a lot as well
all the time.
during the
Yeah.
training. And here it was like one of these huge parts of the exhibition. And I actually, yeah, I sent you all these WhatsApps
Yeah, these
with the
pictures. Yeah,
information and pictures, because when you really look into the body, you see that so much of the body is actually fascia, and it's all
yeah,
so interconnected. And they had these, um, how do you call this? They build these structures to
hmm,
show how it communicates with each other. So
right. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, talking about the biotensegrity of the
yeah,
body, right? The biotension integrity or tensegrity, as you put
yeah,
these two words together. Yeah, that's an amazing model to see. So you actually see that the body is just a very complex set of springs, right?
yeah,
And how it all works together instead of,
absolutely,
as we tend to do, just tear it apart in pieces, like this, the bones, the muscle, all these things.
yeah,
And then, but as you see, every cell in the body has just a little layer of fascia
yeah,
around it. And so, yeah, that's what we teach as well, right? Getting people back into contact with their fascia. So it's great to see it, right, that way. I mean, you can, of
yeah.
course, you can see, you go to the butcher, you see meat, but now from the actual human, and look, well, there was even a whole nervous system laid out there, right?
Oh, it's interesting. I mean, I was always interested in biology, and then you see all these pictures, but now you see the real deal.
Yeah,
And so it's also something to be respectful of, but it does give you real insight. And then this body of yours, it's just so amazing. It's just something that we sometimes we don't realize how amazing this body is, with so complex, and it just functions most of the time, most of
yeah,
the time.
yeah, yeah,
And and to work with it with the qigong, you have an opportunity to really reconnect with the system.
yeah,
um, and and I think with going to this exhibition of Bodyworks, um, you actually get an insight, and it shows, yeah, that what we're training is something that actually can be seen
yeah.
for real.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and like modern science is also catching up to that idea
yeah,
now, and yeah, that's. I had a physiotherapist here once for just a couple of sessions. I think he had like a gift, sort of like a gift from some of his colleagues or something. He wanted to try some qigong sessions, and he came in, And I started with, well, just the fascia. That's where I always start, right? Opening the joints and that all these things. It was like the internal body mechanics, and from there, he was like, "Wow, it's like incredible that you're talking about these things." It's just he was like,
Yeah.
"For us, it's cutting edge." He said, "I was like, well, join the club,
It's
So
yeah.
yeah, it's incredible that, but it's good. It's time again too, that I guess it's about time, that we
Yeah.
reconnect with ourselves in that way,
Yeah.
because it gives us access to everything. This is where that internal training starts. Without it, it's just becoming an illusion, because we are not in this part where the whole path is built upon, is
Yeah.
namely this elastic body and the development of that. So yeah, it's truly great to be able to see it, right? Have a view of it. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Oh,
wow, okay, yeah, now I
yeah.
see it too. And
And
yeah,
and it does make so much sense now again, while we'll always start with the physical,
yeah,
because our it's such a huge part of the training to first get the physical, and reconnect with the body again, because we're so mental most of the time. We're so incredibly mental, but the mental, it has its function, but your mind is not. What would it be if you have to think about your heart and how it
ah,
how it functions, or
yeah,
if you have to remember to breathe,
no,
it would be very tiresome. So
tiresome, yeah,
yeah, so the body has such an intelligence, and to get back to that intelligence of the body, and to really get that reconnection going with the physical
yep.
and the energetic. Yeah, so and I see someone
Someone has a
there.
comment. What's that?
Shaker.
Ah, Shaka.
Shaker.
Yep.
Good evening. Well,
Yeah.
good
Good evening,
evening to you.
Shaka. Good to that you're here.
And for everybody listening,
Yeah.
please, if you have any questions for us,
Yep.
put them in the
Absolutely.
chat, and we're very happy to answer. That's why we thought it would be a good idea to do it live. So
Yeah, we can have some
we,
engagement with you, and
yeah,
so anything to do related with internal training, please
yeah,
ask if there's something, and we'll in the meantime we'll just chat about alignment and the importance of fascia development,
yeah,
of course. And fascia development comes out of reconnecting with it, right? So
yeah,
reconnection is always the first part of everything we're
yeah.
doing, really getting in touch with it again.
Yeah, and the funny thing, because I was just telling about Berlin and how I went to this Bodyworks exhibition, and that fascia was such a big part of that. But when I got home again, and I was walking the dog, and we have
Mm.
like a greyhound, which is,
It's like a
he's
Ferrari on a leash. It's
yeah,
an incredible dog.
and
Yeah.
um, he's such an example, because every morning when he wakes up, he shakes himself, and then he stretches,
Yeah. He
and
yawns
then
and stretches like,
yeah,
yeah.
and then I let him off his leash, and then he's like real bouncy. You see all this,
Yeah, he bounces when he
yeah,
walks, right? He
and
still has that.
as
Yeah.
if there are springs
Yeah.
underneath his paws, and
Yeah. And then you see a human walking. It's like you're like, you see
yeah,
the heaviness, right? With a
yeah,
lot of people. Yeah.
there's such a difference. So
Yeah.
um, he's such a good reminder. I mean, he doesn't go to the gym to practice, but he's able to jump over like a canal of I don't know,
Yeah. A couple,
2 meter.
yards,
Yeah.
like two and a
So
half, three. Incredible.
yeah,
Just from standing still. He's
I'm
just standing
yeah,
there, and then like, he
yeah,
launches himself. So
yeah.
yeah, this elastic body is so well, but he never trains. That's the odd thing. He's just lying on the couch. So how do
Yeah.
you do it, man? I don't know. Yeah, it's
He's
incredible.
he's he's here, so that's why we're watching
Yeah,
to this side, and yeah, and I think for people who've been training here in the Netherlands with us, they're always looking at Nathan, and yeah,
yeah, it's truly
he's
a wonder
he's
of nature.
he's like the real master in this house. So
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure, for sure. Well, interesting about this exhibition, of course, that they take the spine as sort of the center of this elastic hole, right? And how it's, if it's good developed, how it's just suspended in your body, and that really, was really great when when you showed, you sent me this picture, and you saw this biotensegrity model next to it, right,
Yeah.
with all the strings and the pieces, where you see the center of it is just what it's all about, right? So
Yeah.
my teacher once said to me, if you want to help people grow, in what way, even spiritually, you have to realign these people.
Yeah.
You have to learn how they have to learn how to realign themselves. And it makes sense when you see that the three dantian are on this level.
Yeah.
And so the springiness of the spine is the center of what we're trying to achieve here. And
Yeah.
the exact alignment of it will get us in a true power, right? So
Yeah.
it's also the center of our internal power in all sorts of ways, because there's the mind, and there's the feeling, and then there's the doing, and they're exactly aligned. So, but that takes a while for people to develop.
Yeah.
And but it's great that they show that also in this exhibition.
Yeah.
And in all these languages we talk about the spine, right? It's like, I test it. I teach internationally, and now here's the dog. There he is. Yep. You see him?
Oh, he's not.
He's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the other. Yeah, no.
Yeah, but in every language they have sort of an expression that's about, does a person have spine or not, or backbone or not?
Yeah.
So it's so great when you see it that clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I also found, because the exhibition was so much about the human body, but also it was related to emotions and feelings, and I was like, that's something that they did before. It's kind of a new way of, or a very old way of looking at the human body again, that by how open we are, if we have an open system, if there is not too much stagnation in the fascia, and then you see that there is also room for emotions to just go through the system, because emotions are fine. It's just when they're stuck in your system, now they start to give problems.
Yeah, that's why we have to create space for them, right? For everything we have to create space. So strengthening the joints, opening the joints, and then strengthening them is key here, because that will open the elastic body again. And strengthening the joints will also make sure that this remains in a more elastic, aligned, structured, elastic whole. And now, everything starts to change on every level, also emotional and mentally, because that's what creates the stagnation, where you lost the elasticity over time. Is that's where the problems start, right?
Absolutely.
And but in the physiology, we can change that around. Again. So I see another comment there, right?
Yeah, I see. I hope I pronounce it all right, Jose. He's always commenting on our YouTube videos, so it's exciting that you're here live. And hello, Didi and Armand. In your opinion, are all of us in a matrix, not knowing how to escape out of it?
Yeah, good question. Well, it depends a bit. I think about it as it's a difference between, if we're trapped in the unconscious, I guess so. If we become more conscious, we start realizing that we're part of universal consciousness, and that's for me where the escape was. So depends a little bit. I think it's all about the person itself and the way they develop, and how they form a character, and how they get conditioned. Is that how they experience their reality, right? But I think we lose something over time, that especially people who train this stuff, if you will, are open to rediscover again. So it's the microcosm, macrocosm approach that we're solving here, right? How to reconnect again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good movie, by the
It's
way.
yeah. And what I find in life is that another word for matrix, maybe system,
Hmm.
like what I have learned from um, working with systems, that we're caught up in so many systems. First, our family system, um, and then maybe school, and jobs and everything. So, and going through this training as we do, I I have started to have more understanding of systems and how they work and how we're conditioned when we grow up, and by these conditioning, we shape our
Yeah.
future. So we were talking about manifestation the other day, and it's not even too hard to manifest, but what are we manifesting? Are we
Yeah.
manifesting the conditioned purpose, or I don't know if that's a thing, but are you
Hmm.
unconsciously manifesting? So are you manifesting your conditioned
Self, your ego,
self,
or
yeah? Or
yeah.
are you conditioning something that's more pure? Um, so yeah,
Yeah, and these patterns you can see everywhere, right?
yeah,
The how the conditioned behavior becomes a system, and this system
yeah,
has its way until a person finds himself waking up in that system, waking up to
yeah,
themselves and their own conditioning, and also their own reactivity, which is conditioned mostly not only by culture, society, all these things, but also your traumas and what you live through. This creates a pattern, behavior, character that is out there, and when it becomes conscious of itself and sees their self, their own, yeah, their own part in that, and also can recognize the hurt, because most people wake up through hurt, you could say,
yeah,
or they wake up through by hitting a wall somehow, some way. Now, in that way, they can wake up to their own conditioning, their own reactivity, and see that these systems are just frequencies,
yeah,
and now you could tune into different frequencies. But obviously that takes the skill of being able to observe yourself and observe your own thoughts and your own conditioning without touching them, and without also being also creating a neutrality around that, because that's going to give you the option to step out of this
yeah,
system. Yeah, because it's all frequencies, right? It's all energy, and how this energy interacts and works. Yeah, these are systems, right? But your own role in it and how you approach it, that can change.
yeah,
But for that, you need to reconnect first, then learn how to release and heal yourself from this conditioning as good as you can, right? It's a step-by-step process, like peeling an onion. And that leads to self-mastery. And self-mastery, for a large part, is about how you regulate your own state in all that's happening. And from there, a purpose unfolds, a different purpose, or it's not different per se, but it's the purpose will unfold. And from there, you could start manifesting consciously, as you
yeah,
just said, right?
yeah,
So you have like 5 steps here. But the first one, to reconnect with yourself and reconnect with your own thoughts and your emotions, and being able to step away and then recognize, oh, wait a minute, I'm creating all the time unconsciously, and now I can see it. Now you have a choice to change, and then all the other things can follow. But it starts there for
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
So yeah, long answer for this question, but it's such a deep one. So
Yeah, good question. Thank you. I
yeah,
hope I hope this helps. That you can you have you can see how
it
it I mean, it's our own reactivity. I guess that's the key. I
Yeah.
just said it, but that's, if it's so conditioned and we stop feeling ourselves, and now, these things happen around you. Like say the times we're in now, there's a lot of things happening, and you could really be caught up in that and become afraid, or worry and all these things. Then you're caught in this system.
Yeah.
But you could also take a step back and say, okay, let's approach this from another way. And is this maybe a time for me to wake up now? Is this a time for me to look inside instead of looking outside? Who am I? Go
Yeah.
inside and reconnect with yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
talk about this,
Oh, all the time.
and I do it
Yeah,
all the
it's
time with
interesting.
students too. So yeah, these questions,
No.
of course, it's the big question is, who are you, right?
Yeah.
And what is this around you? Is it the matrix, or are these systems that you actually can escape
Yeah.
to a certain degree, right? I mean, and these energies will have an effect on you, but you choose in how you deal with it.
Yeah. And for me, sometimes it's what kind of words do you give to it? So Matrix is like it's like the movie, and you're plugged in somewhere. So it's
Yeah.
kind of uh, non. For me personally, it sounds a bit far offish. Whereas like systems, family system, and it's it's very close by and something that I'm very involved in. And so now it sounds like something I can do something
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's almost hard to escape. But now because I give different words to it,
Yeah.
now I'm it's easier to work. We have another question.
Yeah.
Healing, martial arts, or just spiritual development? How to apply internal training if you want to focus on one of the three paths?
Let me see. We have
Oh,
healing, we have martial arts, and just spiritual development. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Good question. Um, for me, it's hard to answer that because I cannot see them apart from
yeah,
where I got into it. I don't. I cannot. I mean, for some people, martial arts is the entry to get reconnected with themselves, and maybe what's the motivation to get into it. For a lot of
yeah.
people, I guess it's not per se that they just want to punch people all the time. It's just that doesn't really make sense for me. Maybe some people are like that, but most people I have been training with when I trained martial arts weren't like that at all. Although they could be pretty heavy people, they were also looking for a way to like the relationship between martial arts and self mastery. Really,
Yeah.
they were like, okay, maybe I need to sort of learn how to defend myself, but getting back into my strength somehow, or that's what I see with a lot of people who actually go into martial arts deeply, is that they're not per se in it to punch other people per se, but more learning how to discipline themselves in some way. So, and obviously when you're in that, healing can start.
Yeah.
For a lot of people it's just waking up too. If you're bruised constantly and having all these injuries and things like that, if that doesn't get you back into your body, what will? It's so I I hope that's clear, right? So out of that, and especially in the internal martial arts, as you start reconnecting more and more with structure and take that with you, you see the people change. You see that they carry themselves differently
Yeah.
over time, right? Because they started getting more aligned. They have had punches a lot of the time, so a character starts changing. But also, especially as you start going into Tai Chi and things like that, where energy work is like the Chi Kung aspect of it is introduced. Talking about myself, when I was like, that was just a big shift in me, like a paradigm shift, really. It's like, whoa, but who am I then? So because you start feeling more and more, and as you do form training and things like that, and you really get into the nitty gritty of, is this joint still open there or not there? And then the standing practices for hours and years.
Yeah.
you change and you start asking different questions. And of course, also the spine being the center of all this, as that starts opening, when I trained, we had the bruises, but we also had the books. We were
Mm.
also
Yeah.
reading the Tao Te Ching and things like that, and there were people doing acupuncture studies and people studying Chinese, things like that. And so there was we it was all about getting skillful, really. It was about skill. I asked my teacher once, I said, so what are we actually doing? And there's the fighting, all
Yeah.
these things. It's a bit like this question, Shaka, and he's like, yeah, it's about skill. And I'm like, yeah, but what does he mean? But over time, I started to realize that it has much more to do with self-mastery. So with self-mastery, you have to ask yourself questions, because the opposite of self-mastery is non-mastery, and that gets you into trouble. So, and from being in trouble, an adventure starts. So it depends also a bit, Chaka, what you mean by spiritual, right? Some people, when they talk about spiritual, it's more like they think about smoke machines and people in purple dresses and things like that. Cool,
Yeah.
but it for me, that's not about that at all. It's way more about, are you able to observe, coming from the observer state again. And this makes a big difference. So as you start living in your body again from the standing practices, you are already on a spiritual path, because you are starting to observe yourself and wondering, wow, why can I not stand this long? Or why all these thoughts? I have to concentrate in my body, but these thoughts keep coming up, and these thoughts keep coming up. So that's already spiritual, because you're starting to ask yourself questions. What are these thoughts? What is this? And how do I start dealing with that? And how do I become, more still? Things like that, So I really cannot set these apart. Mostly what you see with people, that they have maybe different entries in
Yeah.
where they start, But maybe it, yeah, I'm biased, because
Yeah.
I started, my interest was not per se when I saw Tai Chi for the first time. Well, not saw it, when I experienced it. Um, I was joining a friend of my mom's who was a teacher, a Tai Chi teacher, and he said, well, why don't you come to some classes with me? While I was visiting in York, England, and he took me with him. We went into the class, and I was like, what is this? There's something special about it. But this was just a form class, just slow movements. But something awakened in me. It was like, whoa. Then I asked him, what is this after? And he says, yeah, it's Tai Chi, and it's also internal martial arts. I'm like, no, it's not a martial art, right? Are you kidding me? But he was like, no, we're not training that aspect of it here. We do the form, and we get people in the body, and it's more like of a meditative thing, and getting people grounded and more still and more concentrated. But he said, but it's part of a larger thing that is internal martial arts. So when I start, so something resonated with it. Then when I wanted to start, I was looking around for the martial art, and I couldn't find it. It was just until we moved to The Hague, and then I met my teacher, who was a Kung Tao teacher. Kung Tao being Chinese styles, family styles, brought over through via Indonesia to the Netherlands. Netherlands have a relationship with Indonesia, used to be a colony. So, but he talked about Tai Chi as well. So he had this mix between Kung Tao and Tai Chi that he developed in that way, and that started making sense. But from the first lesson, I was standing still in a standing position, because he says this is the most important exercise for you. And I was like, when are we starting the martial training? He was like, no, you have to first reconnect with yourself. Yeah, so I hope that you see, Shaka, I cannot tear these things apart. Maybe different for someone who's in boxing, or it could be kickboxing just for self-defense, or fine, but I cannot speak for them. I can only speak for me and for most of the students that I teach. And for most of them, they might have had an interest in the martial arts, but they developed through it. So they still have a passion for it, but then they also started asking deeper questions, etc., etc. And from there, it became just a different thing. They started to, people, most of these people who start with these arts, they've lived through things, traumas and things like that, and they sort of think, when they with martial arts that they can change something with that. Maybe more self confidence
Yeah.
is a big one. But then, what is the lack of self confidence and why? If you start asking these questions, you're already on a healing path, right?
Yeah.
So, and I had the good fortune that my teacher, I did a lot of private sessions with him as well. So at a certain point, we were just talking a lot about Taoism and things
Yeah.
like that, because I recognized something like, oh, I'm not alone, in the way I think, in the way I have I see the, yeah, I see the world, I was like, am I alone in this, until I started working with them. It was like, wow, so, yeah, so I hope that helps, Shaka. Yeah.
Yeah. And if I can just add, for me, um, it would be, I'm not really into the martial arts, but my path started with the more of the healing, when, because I had an issue. I had like I went into traditional Chinese medicine because I had a problem with digesting. So and that got me into that path and more of the healing aspects, that led me to, beforehand, I would sometimes train with our mom with the Tai Chi, and he would do some of the martial arts. Was not a great success all the time. So, but
No.
um, when he did the qigong, I was like, yeah, then it clicked, and I was really into that,
Yeah.
and going through that got me on the path of spiritual development. So it's so interrelated for me, as well as what you were just
Yeah.
telling.
Hmm.
But there was just a different entrance. For me, it was the healing came first. That entrance came first, and that got me on the path
Yeah.
of picking up qigong, and that I started to read a lot of stuff about qigong, hermetics,
Yeah.
and so
Five
yeah,
elements food, of course,
well, yeah,
nutrition. Yeah.
everything about the elements I love, love, love. So that's yeah, that just got me on the spiritual path.
Yeah. Also with, the standing practice, I discovered that I had a lot of highs and lows. I just started to discover how my energy was all over the place from one day to another, just being able to focus better or not,
Yeah.
And so that made me wonder also about my diet as well, because I found that I became even more sensitive. I guess I was already sensitive, but sort of
Mm.
cut off from it. So it was already happening, but wasn't relating any of that stuff to my nutrition or my
No.
diet.
Yeah.
So when I started with the standing practice, I got more sensitive to, man, this must be what I ate.
Mm.
That that is, has got me to this point where I cannot really concentrate as well. And
Yeah.
so, and a couple of days later will be fine. So out of these ups and downs, I started an investigation together with you, because we were
Yeah.
already living together. So yeah, we started
Yeah.
influencing each
Yeah.
other, and yeah,
The yin and yang. Yeah.
yeah,
So, no, but that's really true. That we got, yeah, we really learned so much from each other, and
yeah, we live it,
yeah,
and that's a different and that's great that we're partners, so that
yeah,
we can help each other in that way.
yeah.
It's because change is not always easy,
No,
especially when you're on your own and you have your patterns in your
yeah,
things. Yeah, it's
yeah.
so
So
yeah.
let's see what Panda Man. Um,
Oh, I see
he
Philip.
wrote,
Hi, Philip. Thank
yeah,
you. Yeah.
and Jose,
Oh, and
thank you very
great,
much.
Jose, that you can, that
That
this
it's
helps.
absolutely. And then Pendaman has, I do Swan Suang.
Yeah, it's the
I'm not
standing
sure.
practice. Yeah.
Qigong for health, spiritual, mental, physical, but I have to admit it has improved my
Yeah.
kickboxing, Kali,
Mhm.
TKD, exponentially. But ultimately, I'm cheat up in everyday life.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Compared to just external arts, yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah, great stuff. I mean, it's all about opening structure and elasticity too with the standing practice. It's such a foundation. My first teacher actually said to me, if this is the only thing you ever train, it's such a deep path,
Mm.
right? Because as you see, I was so all over the place that my teacher did exactly the opposite right from the start by setting me still, right? It's like, okay, you're going to stand 20 minutes a day. Some people were like, oh, that's not long. Well, if you really get, into the quality of the training, 20 minutes can be long, right? Because I teach this stuff as well, right? So some people with standing practice, it's like people come in, or maybe I teach teachers as well. So come in and like, so, okay, tell me about your standing practice. Yeah, I stand, and nice. And so we check it, and like, there's no elasticity yet. Okay, so we start fine tuning these things. And so then I asked him, so what do you do while you're standing, right? Is there, yeah, I just stand. And I'm like, okay. But it should be quality training, right? We
Yeah.
should be doing some internal work here. We're studying ourselves, right? So, and that gets the ball rolling, where we start with the physical stuff, starting to open the joints, starting to fine tune the fascia stretches. We start connecting with it. We talked about that just now. And then learning how to relax into that stretch. So this is the first entry into song training. And that is not just relaxing. And this is important, because a lot of people like, I stand there and I relax. So yeah, and I just stand an hour. I had some guys said, yeah, I stand and I just watch a TV show. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess you have been doing the real standing practice, and as you get connected to the body again, start opening it, and now becoming more and more still and starting to study yourself, you reconnect in such a deep way with your physiology that that's next level. Most people don't have that sort of connection with themselves, unless you're maybe a ballet dancer,
Mm.
or maybe in the circus, things like that. It's such a deep thing when you're not thinking about your ankle joint, but when you have your mind there, right? Your mind is actually there. And now you can start opening that. So you start living in this body again. And that somehow never lets you go anymore. It hits a sort of a breakthrough point, where you will notice, like, while I'm talking to you right now, I have a connection with my body also. It has created this center of gravity, so it helps in life, as you said. It's just how this helps in life, and just the openness and the way you carry yourself. I mean, the best way to regulate your state is through your physiology, right? So if you have this connection, you say, like, this is open and this is aligned, you instantly feel better, right? But I was like this. I was like this, and this is different, right? So, and for people would be like, oh yeah, relaxed, No, this isn't relaxed. As you do this in the standing practice, like this is gonna be very,
Oh.
very heavy, 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 heavy. So as you start opening up again, starting
Yeah.
opening the joints, etc., you're just gonna change. That's what happens with people, and that's why my teacher was so. It was like, do that thing, and then I did it for a long, long time, until it just sort of, it was part of me,
Yeah.
it all changed. So
Yeah.
yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. You see how impactful that is, right? And also how that can, it can. It's even. I know I have a student who is he's an ultra runner. And he's one of these chi runners, So he uses these aspects of the elastic body for running, and he's an extreme runner. So he runs like 80K. It's
Yeah.
insane at distances, right? And it's all based on this elastic body. So sports, martial arts, spiritual training too,
Yeah.
Spiritual training would be that you create lightness in the system, and that depends on an open spine. And so we want to condition that spine in a way that it remains open. That takes time to develop, So also for your spiritual training, it's essential to have an
Yeah.
open spine, So yeah,
Yeah. And
great
that
stuff.
completely helps you through the day. So as you say, it's like everyday life. You bring a different quality to the day when you start your day opening up your system. And yeah,
Yeah, it's like
so
brushing your teeth.
yeah,
It's just it's part of your being to open up. My dog does it every morning. First thing he does is stretch. So
Yeah.
we stretch too. For people who are into hermetic training, it's in the first step already, is stretch every day. Why is that? And why have we lost that also? I
Yeah.
think if you go back a couple of generations, it was still more hip to stretch, I guess. And I think that just the
Mm.
more bodybuilding took over. There's not to say anything wrong with that, but when I went to the gym, I see a lot of people coming in, they pump their muscles, but they don't stretch. So where did we start losing that, right? This
Yeah.
connection with the body, I guess, when the mental takes over, that's
Mm.
happening by
Yeah.
itself. But yeah,
That's probably the kind of jobs that we're doing nowadays. Sitting behind the computer, it's
super
like,
mental.
yeah,
Yeah,
super mental, but also a different posture.
for
So
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of, but then again, you see there's more yoga now, you see
yeah,
the Chi Kung. I think also in these times a lot of people looking for ways to reconnect again, and to be able to yeah, live in themselves
yeah,
again, having this connection. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, so if you still have, if there's any questions out there, please ask them.
yeah. Oh, here, Vivek.
Hi, Vivek.
And thanks for this live discussion. How can we connect standing Qigong and energy cultivation with digestive alignment? Am I reading that all right? Can one direct energy to a certain part that needs healing during, after? Ooh, that's an interesting question. Um,
Do you mean here that we can direct it after, because this is after the digestion, you mean, or just while standing?
Elman. Oh, well, maybe I interpret
Yeah.
it in a certain way, and I'm not sure if that's what your question is. But for me, studying traditional Chinese medicine on food, 5 element food, um, being able to actually feel the energy got me in a completely different process eating. So even um, going to the supermarket and buying my food, um, I would already tune into energy. This is a little bit different of what you ask, but what I do, I tune into energy, and then um, oh, you mean during? Well, let me tell this first, and it would have make a difference on what I would buy. What does my body tell me?
Hmm.
Okay, um, what is good for my system?
Yeah.
And then while eating, how you prepare your food, and while you're eating it. So you tune into energy, and you feel like, okay, what's the right food for me at this moment, and being very conscious while eating. But you have a different question. I meant during or after the standing qigong. Okay. I'm gonna read it again. How can we connect standing qigong and energy cultivation with this? Can one direct energy to a certain part that needs healing during or after?
Yeah,
Yeah.
directing energy is the mind. So if you have the mind on it and you're on energy itself, and you can use the pore breathing technique, you can release, you can
Release.
create
Yeah.
space, you can move. Yeah, so that's very very much possible. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And I think it's also here. Qigong gives you raised energy. How does one use that, like Reiki?
Qigong gives you raised energy. How does one use that, like Reiki? Well, I'm not a Reiki specialist, but I guess they're in sort of in the same ball game. But I'm not really sure if I understand the question.
Well, it what maybe it's a different way of using. Well, first of all, qigong gives you an opening to your energetic system, so you start to be in you have a connection with your energy, and now you can actually give that energy a direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, yeah, if you feel energy in your, especially in your hands, it's the easiest. That's what a lot of people feel. um, I think for that's the oldest way of healing, is that actually touching the body, where there is pain, you bring energy to it.
First is the mind, right?
Yeah,
You bring the mind to the location, but as you do it more in a Qigong way, it would mean also that you have the pathway open. So you have the elastic body open so that the mind can travel more easily through it, leading the energy through the gates. And the gates are more open, leading it to that place. And now you can start releasing there and
yeah,
sinking. Bring it even down. I could even do it without this hand and just noticing this spot here, and then breathe and release it through this arm and breathe it out of these fingers. As the mind connects to the feeling and the elastic body creates the pathway for it, I can breathe through this arm and I can feel the energy
yeah.
move. This is how it works. Yeah.
Energy through awareness to that body part.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
and
there's
I,
always three
yeah,
components. There's the mind, there's the feeling, and then there's the physical, the body
yeah,
mechanics for what you're doing, right?
yeah,
So yeah, so this is why the elastic body is so important, because if we just relax, it's not really open, it's stagnated, it's heavy, right? If we open it, look at my fingers, see the stretch. Now the elastic body, the gates are open, so the joints are the gates, right? If the gate is closed, if the arm is heavy, energy is not going to move through it optimally. If we start opening the elastic body, the biotensegrity of the body, now the energy has a very, very good pathway to go through, or let's say better, because we have stagnations as people, but now we can deal with these stagnations better as we can move energy there. And of course, if there's stagnations that are deep and heavy, or deep injuries, then a good acupuncturist can help you there as well, or maybe massage, to create openness again in this elastic, because it will be a knot or something, that where energy gets
yeah,
stuck. But also that's why we stretch every day as well. We do these power stretching exercises, or maybe like the April Cates exercises, just to create openness in all these
yeah.
pathways so that energy can move through it much more efficiently. But the mind moves the chi, so it's the mind needs to go there, leading the energy. So this is why we do the ball energy exercise, to
Yeah.
just tune into that frequency, because if we can feel this vital energy, we can tune our awareness on that frequency. Now we can start moving that with our mind, and the breath regulates, right? So if I breathe, I can feel like an echo of the feeling and the way I intended with the breathing. Now it's breathing through the fingers, but I can do it more like a sigh. Now it feels a little bit more round. So breath regulates it. So the mind, the feeling, the physical, of course, providing the pathway, and the breath can regulate that. So yeah, this is how this stuff works. Yeah. Hope that
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah.
He says, got it. Directing energy through awareness
To
to that
that
body
body
part.
part.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then of course that body part you wanna open it there,
Yeah.
right? So that's why standing qigong is so great, because you learn about
Yeah.
all these deeper layers, and at a certain point it's like, oh, that's my liver, and then you can just all
Yeah.
feel it. So your mind is really inside. So
So
Shaker
great.
has also a question.
When will we see the advanced Qigong online course? The basic course was excellent foundation.
Oh, thank you for that. Thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Well, there will be another online course, but then we'll have to wait for a little bit. We're working
Yeah.
on that, so probably after the summer. But for the meantime, there's private mentoring
Yeah.
with Arma.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have a 5-day workshop in the Netherlands. There are still spots available. So if you want to train more, do some partner training,
Absolutely.
go through
Yeah.
the all these steps, then
Yeah, and these are small group workshops, so
yeah,
we can definitely go into deeper detail for where you are right now and
yeah,
what will be the next step. I know you're working on elements, things like that, so we can definitely work on that as well. So you're also welcome in the Netherlands to train with us in the summer.
yeah,
Um,
and that
but
counts for
what we're working on right now is the idea of having more of a Chi Skills course, which is more holistic. in this way. So there will be also these 5 pillars that we're talking about: the reconnection, the self-healing, self-mastery, purpose, and then manifestation will all be in there. So more like a mix between not only Qigong, because Qigong is sort of the foundation, but we're also implying there the hermetic things and etc. So
Food.
and nutrition as well, as we
Nutrition.
cannot tear these things apart anymore, you know.
Yeah.
So hopefully that helps as well.
And we have more questions. Hi, can you explain a little bit more about the energetic fields? Does it come from expanding the joints by inhaling and exhaling?
So
Those are the
energetic
first two.
fields. So the way I was taught, and I teach as well, is that we talk about the openings. So Qigong is about 3 openings. The first opening is the opening of the joints. So we're in the physical realm here. That will open the elastic body, the biotensegrity. Then from there, we start breathing in and out of the stretch, in and out of this biotensegrity through the pores. And now we come into the feeling of vital energy, which is still very much related to the physical body. It's what animates the physical body. So they're very closely related. And sometimes this is just in the physical, as they say. It's just all physical. And then they would just still say that vital energy is that as well. Roughly, that's a layer like this around you. So this is why we do the ball energy trainings, where we start becoming aware of this magnetic feeling between the hands and the energy. And as we start breathing with this energy, we can move it in and out of the system. So this is, I guess, what you're talking about. But this is the vital layer. And great, people can mostly feel this pretty quickly as you get them on that frequency, and they become aware of it as they start learning whole body pore breathing, and they become more aware of this field of vitality around them. And then they can start learning how to work with that, give expression to it. In Hermetics, we talk about pore breathing, the elements and things like that, strengthening aspects of your being, releasing energy. And even you can work with things like charging a room with energy consciously, charging objects, influencing all sorts of things. But then from there, we take the first transformation. We start transforming this vital energy into astral energy, or chi. And this is just a different feeling again. And we sort of come more and more in the formless aspects of our being. And there's still this feeling of it, but as we move from the lower dungeon, which is more in the physical and the vital energy, as we go to the middle dungeon, we start leaving the body behind step by step, and we start releasing time, and we become more and more still. And from there, we get a different experience of this feeling. It starts changing in a thick and heavy fluid. And you become well aware of that as you're sitting there in the stillness, and it starts building. So on that level, we can influence the middle dungeon. Then we can start working on healing, the deep healing aspect there of the training, as we start influencing our soul on a deeper level, cultivating a deeper stillness, and also cultivating equanimity there, clearing the pipeline, right? We're in the pipeline here, where we go from the physical to the astral, and then the next step would be the mental. But as we do that transformation from the astral / chi to the mental, what starts happening is that we come into more formless aspects of our being. So the mind can expand. And this is a true reconnection, because this aspect of our mental body is not subject to form anymore, or to gravity, as the others were still. So as you see, you go from the physical opening to the vital energy, which starts moving away from the physical. Then you go to the chi / astral, becomes a thicker and heavy fluid. From there, we start moving with the mind as we move through that and leave this form behind. Now the stuff becomes more and more spiritual as we start reconnecting with our own consciousness, with universal consciousness. So we're talking about these layers of expansion and stillness, right? So what we teach what we teach people is, we're on a path of cultivating stillness, and in the stillness we're going to feel more, and the transformations will happen. What we do here is we quicken those transformations, because if we wait for them, it's going to take a while. So we take people through these frequencies, we connect with them, and then also starting to work on all these plateaus and see what can be done there, right? Pore breathing, moving energy, is absolutely foundational exercise for that, because that can lead to leads to the elements training, as I just said before. But also, as you start slowing down the energy and move towards the middle dantian, it's still sort of the same thing happening, only we become very, very quiet. So now it starts changing. So I hope this helps. This is how we start expanding and leaving the form more and more behind. And from there, we could open the pipeline, going to Wuji or Akasha, as we call it in Hermetics, and then connect to non-dual light. Well, this is super spiritual stuff and sounds super vague now. I understand that, please give it a dislike or two. We're used to that, when we start talking about astral energy, people are like, what? Astral energy? Like, yeah. Astral energy, sorry. This stuff has feeling too, you too, right? So, yeah, I hope this helps.
Yeah. And does the fish create high energy?
Well, a fascia conducts energy. Right? It's the conductor of vital energy throughout the system. So this is what animates our being. So the more open it becomes and the more strong it becomes, and the more you develop it through special exercises like stretches and all sorts of holding exercises, rebounding, Tai Chi training, you're starting to conduct more and more energy. So your power will increase. So it's has absolutely to do with building internal power, is building fascia. Yeah. So there's different approaches, right? I also did the fire method with bringing energy into the lower dantian, but that just didn't work for me. And when I met my teacher, he said, well, maybe it's better for you to start developing just strong fascia. Energy is everywhere, so why not become an energy conductor? And I never looked back. It was a game changer. And for everyone, we teach this as well. That becomes the game changer for sure. Yeah, so good question. Yeah, absolutely.
Panda Man, which is better for, what does that mean? Double Z. Reverse breathing or belly breathing?
Which is better for? Oh, for standing practice. That I guess that's what he means. Yeah. Reverse breathing or belly breathing? I use pore breathing. So that's, the reverse breathing, I did that a lot, just drawing energy in. I mean, from the sinking of the energy, that has an effect on the lower dantian as well. But belly breathing it's good. Belly breathing is something that is it's very helpful for lots of things. It also means you're more in a relaxed state. As you feel that the whole diaphragm is working. But as I learned pore breathing became my thing, and just also in standing practice, it's just whole body pore breathing. So you breathe with the whole system, and then you will notice that the belly is also breathing, for sure. So the breath slows down, especially when we do the transformations, because in your standing practice you also go through a development, right? First it's more physical, joints, fine-tuning your body like a string instrument to feel it singing. And as you become more energy aware and you do the ball, now we're in vital energy. Start pore breathing, releasing in this position. But also you're going to feel that out of the sinking, the mind just focusing on the opening of the whole body and becoming aware of the energy of the earth, etc. Is that energy is going to connect itself in you, reconnect through heaven and earth, start connecting. And then you could sink chi, and as the chi starts sinking, you're going to feel it filling again. So yeah, that becomes a whole different thing. But for me, pore breathing has just become the natural thing to do. Yeah. So hope that helps. But yeah, great stuff. Good questions. Beautiful.
Yeah, I think we have
nice.
Most of the questions. So if there's anyone there who has another question for us, and otherwise,
that's great. There's a lot of people on the standing path. So that's I love that. Yeah, I have a big passion for it because it changed everything for me. I did it over a period of like 11 years, every day, everywhere, around the world, in hotel rooms and in campsites underneath the stars, and it changed everything for me. Until I let that go at a certain point, and other exercises took over, which made more sense then for strengthening certain things. But it's a great path for self-development. But instruction there is helpful, because it goes through these. It helps if you understand these levels. So when people come in for training, that's the first thing we do. We open the body and then we go through. Okay, let's look at the physical first. Make sure that's intact, because now, as we become more energy sensitive and we start awakening the energy body, we can do the energy work because the body is optimally open. We have connection with this biotensecurity.
Yeah.
Fascia.
Great. Yeah.
Everything. Beautiful.
So, I think that's it for tonight. There are no more questions.
If anyone still has a question, please let us know. We have a couple of minutes.
And maybe it's good to, we already talked about it, but if you want to work with us, we still have some spots available during our summer workshops. So
first one is in June.
There's one in July, one in end of August, and at the beginning of September.
Right here in the Netherlands.
And we'll do 5 days of training together.
So also, the physical things we've been talking about, the awakening of the energy body, bringing that together into energy work. And we're going to have fun with some nutritional stuff as well.
And partner training. And I think that's the great thing of these workshops, is that from day one, we just go to the park, which is just behind here. And we'll do lots of partner training, which is so helpful for great structure, and you feel your energy. So it's not like it's a great tool of knowing that you really get it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is why we do all these rebounding things where we get these nice comments like, "Oh, this is all fake stuff." All right, I don't know what these people are talking about. But as you put a force on someone's structure and you push yourself off of them their structure, hopefully their structure, a realignment and openness. You figure it out quickly. So this is just fast tracking your growth this way. Yeah. So during these days, you see a development which is like, it goes from day to day. It's like, wow, And for some people, just standing on their own,
it's sometimes difficult.
That's sometimes difficult. It's like, do I have it now, or is this enough? What's enough? So having a partner there will really help you to get it together quickly. The feeling, right? The feeling you're looking for.
Because sometimes it's so tiny, little bit, but you cannot. If you put a force on someone, then you will notice, like, you need to adjust just a little bit, and the body tells you a story. And by doing these exercises together, you get a better understanding of yourself. Like, how am I standing, and where do I close my neck, or where is my body giving up in these exercises?
Absolutely.
And most of the time they actually tell a story underneath. So
it's state, right? Everything we're doing here is optimizing the state of the person, and the physiology and testing that and realigning that has such a big effect on I have this tendency to close my neck, and I do that all the time. And it's not only because they're on computers all day. Sometimes it's just ingrained in their whole being, as this being has started to tell a story of what a person has been through. Now, as we start neutralizing that again and opening that again, people change. They change quickly, and this is where the healing aspects come. And
it's beautiful to watch and to.
And these are small group workshops, right? So we can really, it's more like private training, Great.
So if you're interested in that, look at our website, chiskills.com, and if you push on the button "Work with us," you will see the workshops. We have some more questions. I had better hearing and smelling from 5 minutes building the ball. Is that common?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's common. You tune in to your energy body, and by doing that, all your senses just getting stronger. It's the stillness.
It's the stillness. Absolutely. So the byproduct of everything we're doing is stillness, right? As you start tuning into the feeling, you're actually in the feeling. There's a different focus happening. So there a different awareness can happen. So you see that people over time starting to restore their spirit senses, as we call them.
Yeah.
So there's more like a clairvoyant thing. There's more like, so people starting to see energy too, right? It's like, wow, I see this sort of foggy, misty thing happening. It's like, yeah, you're going to see this energy
Yeah.
now because you're looking different, right? Your eyesight is on a different frequency, but also with hearing, with feeling, with sensing, with tasting.
Yeah.
So you're doing yourself a great service because everything's starting to taste better. But also maybe you're finding out that it's not actually that nice what you're tasting. And you're like, why am I eating this stuff all the time? Because you become more sensitive, etc. So out of these spirit senses awakening, you're going to notice also that also is a development, you know. So man, I'm happy for you, you know.
It's such a journey. It's such a beautiful journey. So yeah. And Jose, hi Didi and Armand, do you two drink coffee or tea?
Well, it's mostly water what we drink.
Yeah, no coffee for me at all. I'm quite glad that I never actually liked coffee, so I've never started to drink coffee. But also, yeah, it's if you look at five elements, coffee is very warming, quite hot for the system. So if you want to train, qigong, and want to be, um, you know, want to have a closer connection to your energy, then coffee can be a great distraction from it. It gives for a lot of people gives a lot of noise. So
well, maybe it gives a certain focus when you drink it
at that particular time.
particular time. But you know, I'm a recovering addict, caffeine, sugar, all these things, and this is way in the past now. But I had to choose to I had to let it go because it was working against me. So and I needed to concentrate again, and coffee helped in some way, you know, but it always gave an edge, and it's super addictive too, you know. And I was really looking at all my addictions. It was like, this is not working for me anymore. So I need more neutrality and a more balanced energy over time, so that can grow, right? Instead of these, I had like peaks and valleys, right? Way too heavy, and that was because of the coffees and the sugars and the spices and the, you know, always in the extremes. So we were more and more to the middle.
And also about tea. What I noticed by myself, but also know it from the books, is that drinks have a big influence on your system. So drinking tea, every tea is medicinal. So if you drink tea, it has a direction, it has an impact on you. So what kind of tea you drink has an effect. So the thing that we drink is actually warm water, not the cold stuff, because otherwise it cools your system down and you don't want to do that. So just warm water, not too hot. And that works brilliantly for us. So that's the most neutral thing that you can drink. And if there is something that I want to balance out, now I can go to my herbs and then make some herbal tea to maybe add some more warmth or something that I need at that time.
So you can regulate in that way.
So no coffee and tea only when it's necessary, and only very rarely just for drinking something else as water. But I love my water. So
that was a journey in you know, that's a podcast in itself, I guess, you know.
Absolutely.
How that develops over time, you know, as these spirit senses become to awaken, and you know, the sensitivity grows, you become more and more aware of, you know, it's all energy. So what do you bring inside, and is it helping or is it not helping? So it's not a discussion of is coffee good or not good. It's more, how about yourself? Test it yourself. And I tested it for myself, and I found out this is just not good for me, you know, and that's why I let it go. But the same thing was with meat. You know, I was eating meat with every meal, I guess, And at a certain point, I was like, so the only way I can find out if this is helping me or not is to just not eat that for a while. So, but I never went back because I found, well, this is not helpful for me. My
Yeah.
energy is all over the place, and it's not helpful. So but that became my own adventure, right? But it's very, very personal. There's
Yeah.
no one fixed
It's
thing. One size fits all. It's not. It's just not there. I guess some stuff makes sense that it's not healthy for us, right? For no one,
yeah.
but
It's
these
a
things, yeah,
it's really a journey,
yeah,
and it's a lifetime journey. Your food, your drinks, it's
yeah, totally.
and also you go through phases, and some stuff you're like, okay, now it's a good time for this, and then a couple of months later you're at different temperature because it's a different season, and you're like, oh no,
Yeah.
not for me now. So it's
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And it's so personal. I mean, I came from depression, so and I didn't know that really because you don't have any comparison, right? But you live that. So at a certain point, you're
yeah,
like, okay, let's look at the relationship between this depression and my energy overall and the sugar, and I was combining coffee with sugar. So and the same was with the caffeine too, I was like, what am I trying to do here? So yeah, so that
yeah,
became its own journey as well. It's all about energy and becoming more and more
yeah,
sensitive, and then making decisions.
yeah.
So yeah,
Another question: are vegetables better raw or cooked? Well, they both have their qualities. So, if you look at five element food, it's all about digestion. So, what is easier to digest is cooked because you kind of pre digested the food already.
yeah.
Um, but there is also, there is a quality in raw as well, or just so there's
It depends sometimes
it
also a bit
dep-
on in the environment you're living in, or the
exactly
season you
temperature,
find
but
yourself, or
just
yeah,
as if just to say it black and white, it's not black and white, but if you just have to choose between the two, then I would say cooked. But it would be if you look at the gray and not the black and white, you would say there's a quality in both, and it depends on how much. So it sometimes it can be really good to have some raw vegetables with some cooked, and it depends on which ones. It's a bit much to go into that right now. That would be a completely new podcast about
yeah. But
food,
it's a good
which we can.
question,
Yeah, it's a great question, and yeah, it's something that we'll
It's a way,
go
yeah.
into.
It all has to do about how
Yeah,
you look at nutrition,
yeah,
right? There's so many
yeah,
ways. We can calculate, of course. We can
yeah,
look at, well, raw. It would have more things in it that still are,
yeah.
but looking at digestion, for some people, it's not easy to digest
No, no.
digest in that way.
It it's
Yeah, I'm still
it.
going into it. So
Yeah, you are. Yeah, I'm thinking
yeah.
like, oh, this can be uh because yeah,
Well, traditionally, you see, with traditional meals that a lot of people
it it is
they
true
cook it. So
that most is cooked.
and why is that? When you think about it.
Yeah,
What does that do when you think about pre-digesting, making it easier for the body to
yeah.
digest it?
I
Yeah,
think what we do a lot about these days is that um, we think about what can be best instead of experiencing.
yeah.
So
We
um,
calculate, no?
we calculate. We think we talk a lot about
Nutrients and
nutrients, about how much should be uh, do we need to cook or this or that, and instead of like being more intuitive with it, like, okay, what does my body actually want for this moment? And that's so important when we tune into our energy. I do these tasting sessions with people. I love to do those because now we get really aware. So you tune into energy, and then you get only a couple of ingredients, and you can put them in your hand, and then see how your system reacts to them. Um, your system doesn't lie. It's so, even by feeling it, holding it between your hands, it has an impact on you. We did it with sugar and
Yeah.
someone who was a sugar addict, and you see the graving, or when something like well, all different things, even salt, the different kind of salt. There is such a different reaction, but being able to tune into the energy ball and do the tune into energy, and then feel the food, and then taste it with that really
With that sort of
and
mindfulness.
mindful,
Yeah.
yeah. Now you feel like, okay, it's not only in your mouth, the thing that you're
Mhm.
tasting, but taste it really good. Like, okay, where does it go in the mouth? Does it, is your mouth, is it contracting,
Is it
or is it
spreading?
spreading? And then where else does it go? Is it in the body? Where do you feel it? Do you feel it somewhere all over? Is
Is there a
it going?
coolness? Is there a warmness?
Some
Yeah.
some foods, they go up to your head right away, and sometimes it's like you feel your whole body kind of in an expanding state
Yeah.
afterwards. But then sometimes, or most of the times, feelings come up as well. So being so mindful about food, now you really engage in your eating process,
Yeah.
and now it can turn into a practice actually, and you can pour breathe into your food,
Charge it.
charge it, and yeah. So it's
Yeah.
there
It's
is
deep stuff.
a whole world out there if it's about food, and how to extend the training, energy training, to food, because it's it's it has such an impact both on one another.
Yeah.
The training on how you eat, and then how you eat on the training. So it's
Mhm.
yeah, it's really
Yeah.
interesting.
As your sensitivity grows and your
Yeah.
mindfulness, then it becomes just a different thing. It's not calculating anymore.
No.
It's all about the experience, and not only in the moment, but also after. It's like, okay, how do I
Yeah.
feel a couple of hours later? Do I register where I have an
Yeah.
energy dip? When did that happen? Why? You start asking these questions. You start journaling. Now you can see the relationship
Yeah. Oh,
between.
yeah.
As you become more of an energy being out of the experience, you're going
Yeah.
to notice more, where's this energy going? What do I bring in my system? What do I engage with? And how am I spending my energy?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, and a lot of stuff that people like is super addictive, really.
Oof. Yeah.
And it fills a lot of holes in the soul, and but it
Especially.
creates a mess too.
Yeah.
It's I know it's not a sexy subject at all, but yeah, it's very
Oh,
it's just
it's
super
so
important.
important. Yeah.
It's one of the biggest game changers. I always say, working on your digestion can have the most devastating effect on you,
Yeah.
but it can also have the best effect on you. It's more like, I'm not saying this right, I guess,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's what it is. It's
Yeah.
you can really mess yourself up, or you can really heal yourself through your
Yeah.
nutrition. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I hope that was helpful. It's a long
yeah,
answer. I think we're out of questions at the. I don't see any questions anymore, so
yeah.
we're ending.
Great stuff.
So
Well,
I
thanks
wanna.
for showing up on this. Well, here it's Saturday night. I don't know where
Yeah.
you are. Maybe it's in the afternoon, but
It
have a
was.
great rest of the day.
Oh, Wesley, you're too late. Well, you can
Oh,
always look at it later. And thanks for the explanation. Thank you. Well, thank you for being there. And it was just so fun to get all your questions. And we'll definitely do this again.
yeah,
So,
it's fun. This is
yeah,
more like a live podcast, and
yeah,
this was the first one, and we just looking at how is this going, and
yeah.
And yeah, definitely we'll
So
do this again. And well, thanks everybody also for your thank yous. Yeah, our pleasure. We're
yeah,
here to help and to enlighten, and to share and to engage with you too.
yeah,
It's a great way to do that. Through just podcasting that way, it's different than
getting
this.
your
And
questions and
that's just a very
yeah,
cool way to do it. So
yeah.
so thanks for showing up. Have a
Thank you.
great rest of your Saturday.
Saturday and
Wow.
weekend.
And weekend.
Okay,
Okay, people, take care.
people. Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.